Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. So today I want to do something kind of interesting and special and unusual because I don't think that this kind of video has been made on BookTube before. If it has, please let me know because I haven't encountered it yet. And it's very specific because it's tied to my heritage, my Bulgarian culture, my background, and I really wanted to do something fun which will let you get to know a bit of my local tradition that we celebrate, but also tie it to books that I've enjoyed reading or really want to read. So what I want to do first is explain which tradition I want to focus on today, which Bulgarian tradition I want to highlight for you, and then tie it to the books that I've selected. The tradition is called Grandma March. It's in Bulgarian, it's called Baba Marta. And what we celebrate is the arrival of Grandma March on the 1st of March, which is today. And what we do is we have this tradition where we give each other martenichki. We call them martenichki, and they are like bracelets which are made from wool threads or from yarn or from like leather bands, and also some pins which are customary, and they're all in red and white colors. I have an example for you so you can see. This is a bracelet which I will gift to a friend of mine or a family member. We also have for children kind of cute, these are cherries which we can pin on their jackets. We also have this little flower here which is also very cute, and like I mentioned, all of these are made in white and red because they represent health and happiness. So what I've planned to do today, because the theme for Grandma March is red and white, I've selected books that I've read or want to read which have red and white covers that I want to discuss with you. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video. First of all, I just want to wish you happy Grandma March. In Bulgaria, we say we hope that you're healthy, that you have red cheeks, which kind of represents health as well, and also that you will be smiling and be happy. So I do wish all of this for you, and please enjoy my video. The first book that came to mind when I decided to do this video is Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. This book I read in my teens and I was so captivated by it, so fascinated by it. Also, the cover is just wonderful. And I do have a physical copy of this book, but it's at my mom's place. So I really need to get those books here so I can do a reread because it really has been like maybe 15 years or so. Maybe not 15, but maybe like 12 years since I've read this book, but it's still very much in the foreground of my mind. I still remember very much what it's about. It's about a young child. His name is Oscar. He's, I think, 8 or 9 years old, and he has lost his father in the 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center. What happens is this very curious, very adventurous, very like his interest is piqued by so many things, and he has such an adventurous mind, this kid, mostly because his father has encouraged this throughout his life. What he finds when his dad passes away is a box with a key inside of it, and he's completely convinced that this key holds some kind of a mystery that his father has left behind for him that he needs to unravel. So what he does is he starts this adventure throughout New York to try to find which door this key will open or which mystery it will uncover about the last kind of quest that his father has gifted him. And this book is just so endearing, so emotionally gripping, because I love reading about children, or actually stories which are written with a children's perspective, where we can feel their innocence and their curiosity, but also their kind of encounters with the cruelties of life. And the reality of life and how they cope with that. And this book is an exact example of what this kind of emotion is about. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. I will do a reread of this sometime because even though I remember it, I want to experience what I felt when I read this book because it's very special. So I do recommend it if you haven't picked it up yet. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Rosie Project by Graeme Simsion. I think I read this book really a while back as well. I think it may have been like 6, maybe 7 years ago or so. So it's been a while, but I still do remember what it's about because it's, again, a very wholesome story. I loved it. It's about Don, who is this genetics professor, and he has autism. So his daily routines are really strategically mapped out. He uses statistics to make sense of everything around him, and because he's a genetics professor, he has relied on science to make sense of the world around him throughout his whole life. Because of an encounter that he has, he decides that he needs to start a new project to find a new wife for himself. And because he's not familiar with how love works, because it's an emotion he's not very familiar with, he uses his scientific approach to try to map out how he's going to find a new wife for himself. At this point, we meet the female heroine within the book, the female protagonist. Her name is Rosie, and she enlists Don's help because he's a professor of genetics to find her biological father. So they kind of have missions for themselves, each of them. She needs him to find her dad, and he needs her to try and make sense of his project and to see whether she's going to be a candidate for his specific little project. I found this book to be so wholesome and so amazingly well executed because I really felt a very special connection to Don, but also to Rosie, and also to how they are kind of managing their characters together, because they're very opposite from each other, and they're very they have very interesting chemistry together. So I really found this book to be very, very wholesome, like I mentioned, and it really touched my heart. I don't know if it's categorized as a fiction book or a romance. I don't think it's romance actually, but there is a romance within the book. And I do recommend it. It has a gorgeous red cover, red and white, obviously because of the theme of this video. And if you do pick it up, please let me know what you think about it, because I haven't read this book in quite a while, and I do want to have to discuss with someone what this book is about and how it touched you and how it touched me as well. So let me know what you thought about it if you pick it up. The next book will come as no surprise to anyone who is within the booktube community, because it's probably one of the most popular books written in the past probably decade. It's A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and the book has an obviously gorgeous cover. It's a red, white, and kind of black cover, which kind of captivates your eye before you even know what the book is about. And the book is an epic fantasy romance story, so it's absolutely worth the read. It's as a series, it's a favorite series of mine. The first book is not my favorite, but it does have an amazing introduction to what will follow within the next couple of books. The second book is actually my favorite, but I do recommend that you read this series because it's definitely worth your time. We get to meet a badass female heroine who goes on an unwilling adventure in the fairy world, where she meets a lot of danger, a lot of action, a lot of romance, a lot of friends, a lot of enemies. It's a very packed series, and I absolutely recommend it. I loved it, and I think that almost everybody loves it. I don't think I've ever heard anyone complaining about it, so it's definitely worth your time, and it does fit perfectly within my theme for this video, so I do recommend it. Pick it up. The next book I'll talk about is again a very, very popular book. I think that a lot of people within the bookish community have read this book before, and because also it has a very popular movie which was made of based on it basically. It's Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. And I think that when I picked up this book, I probably gave it out to all of my girlfriends because I read it within like a day, and then I gave it to all of my girlfriends, and I think they all kind of cried and bawled and sobbed together with me, because it was just such a beautiful story. And I also love the movie. I have to say, this is one of the books where I do appreciate the movie adaptation for it. It's centered around Louisa, who kind of hasn't been able to stick with a job in the past, and she's looking for a new job, and she gets hired to be the caretaker of a young man whose name is Will. Because of an accident, he has become a quadriplegic. How do you say that? Quadriplegic, I think you call it. So he's stuck in a wheelchair and he has no movement in his body because of the accident that he has been in. Prior to the accident, Will has always been a very vivacious and very kind of energetic and very active person within his life. So he feels like the accident is basically a death sentence for him. And Louisa, with her quirky and amazing character, kind of tries to bring him back to life. It's such an emotional and such an amazing story with such an incredible ending. I absolutely loved it. I love the movie adaptation of it because Emilia Clarke is in it. Yeah, it was definitely worth the read. If you haven't read it by any chance, I don't think again anyone has missed out on reading this, but if you haven't read it, you should definitely pick it up because it's an emotional, amazing, heartwarming story between two characters who are absolutely opposites, but life kind of has a way of bringing those opposites together to make a meaningful connection to each other. So it's absolutely beautiful. Another book with a red and white cover that I actually have a physical copy of at my mom's. Again, I really need to pick up those books because I'm due for a reread for this book. It's Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. This book I read maybe really in my late teens or the start of my 20s, so it's been a while again, and I do still remember it very vividly because it's a favorite of mine. It really has stuck out to me that books that have made an impact on me while I read them have really stuck with me throughout many, many years, and this is one of them. I think it's autobiographical because the main character is named Mitch as well. He remembers this college professor very fondly, and at some point at the start of the book, 20 years later, I think, he rekindles his relationship with this professor because his professor is dying, and they spend time together and kind of converse about life, have many fruitful discussions, and basically it's an emotion-packed book because we do know how the book will eventually end, but it's really the conversations within the book that matter the most. It's a very, very kind of philosophical book and book which gives you a lot of food for thought. So it has stuck with me throughout those many years. So I think if you pick it up, it will stick with you as well because it has very many wise life lessons within it. And yeah, I'm really due for a reread for this one, and I think I need to go pick up my books from my mom's place. I really, really need to. Anyway, you will love it if you pick it up, and yeah, I do recommend it with both hands. The next two books I'm going to discuss are ones which I haven't read yet, but I have purchased. I think they will arrive in a couple of weeks' time, so I really want to get to them this year. The first is by Mark Haddon. It's called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. And I've heard so many good things about this book. I really want to get to it. I believe it's about a teenager with autism, again, who experiences something that is really kind of gripping for him to experience. It involves a dog, so he starts to go about uncovering a mystery or kind of he wants to uncover what happened with this dog. And I do know that there's been a lot of raving reviews about this book, so I really want to get to it. The second book is called Wolf by Wolf, and just bear with me a second because I forgot who it is by. It's by Ryan Graudin, I think his name is. It's actually a series, and this one was hyped up a lot by Haley from Haley in Bookland. And I think that it's a very interesting spin on a Second World War fiction book. I don't typically read books that are centered around World War II, but this one really sounds like a very interesting twist. It has a very interesting twist. I think that it's about what would have happened if Hitler had won during World War II. So this sounds like a very interesting concept for me. Haley said that it has a very, very interesting way that it develops. So I'm really interested in it, and I've ordered both of the books within the series. So I can't wait to pick it up and see whether I'm going to like it or not. And you can see that the red cover is absolutely gorgeous for this one as well. It really grabbed my attention. That's why I really wanted to pick it up. So I think it fits perfectly within this video as well. This wraps up my very special, interesting, unusual video which centers around a Bulgarian tradition called Grandma March. Happy Baba Marta, everyone. And I just wanted to mention, because I don't think I mentioned it before, what we do with those bracelets with the Martinichki is basically we wait for the first signs of spring, so for the first fruit trees to bloom or for the first storks to arrive. And then we hang up our Martinichki on trees, or we put them under rocks so that we can ensure ourselves a very healthy and prosperous spring period. I hope that you enjoyed this video where you can get to know my Bulgarian heritage and tradition that we follow at the beginning of spring. I hope you enjoyed the little story behind it, and also that you enjoyed the books that I picked out for this video. Please let me know if you've read any of the books and whether you're interested in reading any of them as well. Also, please follow my channel, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and follow me on Instagram as well. I hope to see you very, very soon. I do wish you a very prosperous, amazing, sunny, warm spring, and have a wonderful, marvelous day. Take care.